Hello and welcome back to the Google.rs development stream. It's Byron speaking. And well, since the release is out finally, everything has been produced. All the documentation is there. All the dev diary stuff is there. This basically means that I can now proceed and work on version 1.1. That's quite a jump from 0.2 to 1.1. And where's the 1.0 anyway? But the plan is to have 1.0 to just be a recompile of the current version with the stable Rust and do whatever is needed to make it compile with that particular compiler, which also includes the dependencies, right? So I might be blocked by that. This will probably take a week until that is out. But in the meanwhile, I want to work on new features which go to a separate branch. Oh yeah, I also restarted and did some maintenance work. Oops, just a moment. Second screen hiccup. So let's set myself up. I should have done that before, I guess. So usually I have a depot here for notes and miscellaneous stuff. Then I have a util for exactly that, which is usually in the Rust main folder. And then I have a Google.rs, which is the main work folder. Let's go there and get to a different branch, which I call next, because that's going to be the next release, 1.1. And 1.1, if I may say that, I guess I have to have a look at this from here. 1.1 is really all about setting up the delegate to do more for us, and also to allow more configuration. So it's kind of a or double-edged sword here. Not that you could hurt yourself with that, but it's mainly like two sides of the same metal. Better configuration allows us to actually set up the delegate to have more automation in turn. So basically, whenever something has finished uploading, you could say, well, then delete this, delete this file, basically call the script with the information that there is, and the script can then decide to delete it. That way you can basically automate your particular workflow. And while being at it, I would also like to be able to configure retry counts and something like that, and possibly control the configuration over or using the command line. And kind of the basis for this is this ticket here. So if you look at, let's have a look at, there's always a little bit of space here for the silly doc. No matter where you put it, you always have to reserve space. That's annoying. But I prefer to have horizontal space reserved than vertical space, as was the case previously. So let's just be happy about that. And I think groups migration main should be one of the few that has a tiny request structure. Actually, I don't know. Let's find that. I mean, what we're doing now is basically, oh yeah, maybe I should explain that a bit more in detail. So the problem is, I wanted to show that actually, but I failed. The problem is that defining the request structures is, a lot of effort right now. Let's go to YouTube main, for instance, because that definitely does that a lot here, for instance, right? So all this code for activities insert, let's count it. That's from 67 to So that's 500 lines of code just to deal with the activity structure. This is because everything is kind of hard-coded here, and we deal with the actual structures and have to make sure this is initialized and stuff. So that's where a lot of complexity comes from. And I think in the case of YouTube, if you look at this kind of repetitive stuff, well, there are quite a few invocations here that can be greatly simplified. Oh, look, that's probably videos insert. So we are talking about probably saving 20, 30%, maybe 40, 50, depending on what we do, if we could kind of generalize this. And I didn't know how to generalize it before. But the solution, obviously, because we can't generalize stuff that works on a preset structure, but we can generalize stuff if we work on a dynamic structure. And the good news is that, we can use our serialization engine to do that for us. It's kind of it all happened when I kind of realized that we have a JSON value. A JSON value is a generic JSON value, which is anything that can be represented in JSON. And anything we can represent in JSON, we can also serialize into either JSON bytes or deserialize that into, or such a structure here, into our actual structure. This basically means that I can have a general, somewhat hard-coded, non-generic function here in my command block that deals with all of this structure setup here. And all it does is produce a JSON value that will return, and then the respective method can do what it needs to do to get an actual request structure out of that. So basically these 1,000 lines here, they will be crunched down. They will be crunched down to an awesome, one line. Yeah, it will be one line. So let's have a look at this. I mean, that's kind of the complex part, but the most interesting thing is how we integrate the setup of the structure and the cursor handling with our non-generic shared code that is going to be here. And yes, I think this will be a oh, look, we just have 6 minutes. We are 6 minutes in. I think this will be a multi-session one. But hey, who cares? It takes as long as it takes. But I try to kind of cut the session maybe once we have the infrastructure, so that we know that, okay, we are making the calls. That's the goal for this session. So I want to get rid of all this code and just get to the point where I provide this function that we are going to do now with the information it needs to do the job. And the job might also include suggestions. Did you mean key? All right. So how does that work? Field cursor has its own did you mean, and this is how that works. Okay. So we have to determine if we have fields in there that didn't work out. So I guess, yeah, and this is kind of the problematic thing, because our generic function doesn't yet have access to these strings here. That's kind of the long names of all possible field combinations. That's also a bit redundant, as you can see, because it's repeating the entire path all the time, which is something we could attempt to improve on, but maybe we do it in a step fashion, because our cursor will always be absolute to us. And yeah, I guess I'd be fine with that for now as well. Yeah. For now, I'm fine with that. So we might take it as a separate improvement to kind of keep the structural integrity intact here and not flatten the list, basically, or flatten the structure. But for now, I think what we could do is we could shift the error handling entirely here. So if we encounter a cursor that doesn't exist, or actually we don't. We can do a match here, and we can say, well, if the cursor that we want to set is part of a list of all known ones, and we can just put them like underneath each other in one giant case. If that's the case, then we will do our error handling here and do a field suggestion. Yeah, that's what we will do. And if we have something that looks like a valid cursor, we will hand in a JSON value that is mutable and manipulate that to contain that particular field. And the great thing about this is that we don't have to care about optionals anymore. It's really just about JSON values. Cool. So that sounds like a deal. To do that, I think I will need the engine Marco, which will possibly here do the request structure handling. And it's always a bit difficult. Request value impo. It's always a bit difficult to find this stuff that actually does the code. So we have basically two portions of code here. The one sets up these functions here. Method call impo. I don't know if that's the one. And then we have the one that sets up the match. So let's see. So all this beautiful code goes away, but at least it was used for one release. That's good. But on the other hand, less code is better. So I'm actually very happy to make this change. I am still confused as to where this is. Maybe I find that I should be a bit more reverse engineering here, because we need to place an fn at some point. Init fn. Init fn. I think the init fn's we actually... Oh yeah, damn it. We generate them here. We don't generate them in actual template code, but I could start by not dropping down these init fn's because I don't need them anymore. Bang. Init fn goes away. That's it. And since I don't need them anymore, I also can stop. I'm just slowly building back the stuff and try to have something working all the time. That's the important point here. If allow optionals, yeah, so all this goes away and this goes away. And then the initfm nmap goes away. Goes away from here and it goes away from here. And we shouldn't use it anymore. Okay, so let's take, this is a good example. Let's count the lines, also what we saved so far. I think it's interesting. So we are at 11,560 lines. And after this change, make YouTube 3 CLI, if it works. It does. We are at 9,200 lines. So that's already pretty decent. So initfn stuff is now gone. Flatten schema fields is something we do need. The init call is something we do not need anymore. Init call, parent init call. Yeah, so now I'm changing the structure here. So this should still work. The init call I think I use. If we have it, we drop it down. This is basically just, yeah, is it visible here? It's just something that comes here, that comes in front of that in that particular case. But these cases we are adjusting a lot anyway. So now it should still work. It does. It doesn't change anything here, but I think if you go to videos, insert, this will have become a bit lighter. Okay. So and now let's just be sure I don't delete too much, right? So that's basically where we set the structure fields, and this is also something we don't need anymore. Where's the match here? So for each schema field, so here we match on the string, on the temp cursor, and I want to see where I drop down the match. So here's the p name, and this is now something that I would like to completely remove and replace by by one big case that just uses the or notation accordingly. Yeah, so if it's the last, then we basically bring in this actual code here. And this is kind of the preparation for the call that we want. So if we determine that we have a valid field, we will kick in the function that is then allowed to manipulate the JSON value that we pass in. All right, so I guess flatten cursor, flatten schema field, opt access. This opt access stuff I also don't need anymore, but let's do it one after another. Opt access. Oh, and here, if not allow optionals. So here's a lot of special stuff. I think all this is not really required. So here for each p name is required. Value unwrap I also don't need anymore. And let's start to also that allow optionals of n. What happens if I do not allow optionals? Where is this? Or if I do allow optionals, where is the end if here? End if, is it this one? Difficult to see, actually, I don't know. Okay, right, let's just kick all this out except for the p name. And for nested fields, so also this goes away. This is, oh, now I get it. This was still part of my, damn it, of my code here. This wasn't even there. Okay, so and for each nested field. So that's basically the end of this loop. But here, obviously, you want to loop through there, and this is not required. No. It will be so much easier, man. No. We just need the p name. Field sub, mangle subcommand. So yeah, I just keep this here. We now saved so much code. And yeah, that's the default case still. That's the suggestion stuff. I think that can actually remain unchanged. Because that indicates that there was a field name that we don't know. And then we do a kind of stupid suggestion, but still one that should be somewhat more helpful than having no suggestion. That's the point here. And yeah, thinking about it. So here we have the p name, and if it's the last, yeah, I think now we have to be careful getting this right. I think I do it here somewhere. I have logic that allows me to drop down the right, I mean in match structures, drop it, make it correctly, but I wonder how I do this. Because basically if you have more than one, okay, wait, basically this one always ends like that. That's the last one, always. And if there's something that comes before, I think for the sake of simplicity, we just drop it. Yeah, but this only is relevant if you have more than one, because if it's just one, and this is, yeah, we check for last first. I think that's how we can do it. If loop last, then we just go with the p name here, and that kind of opens up the entire thing. Else, if it's not last, I think then we are good. Okay, that's this one. So that's our branch where we do the stuff. And this is our branch where we just put in put in these names alongside with an OR. So if this is just a single item loop, last will be true on the first one, and we do the right thing. Whereas otherwise, if this is the first, if this is not the last, then this means there are more than a one, which means that we have to drop a colon at the end. This is how I would like to have it, because that makes it kind of easy for me to set this up correctly. So here's a new line at the end. Here's also a new line at the end. This should actually bring us down to even less. So 11,500 we came from. And now this is just, it's really just that. Oh, I might want to save this. Works, that's good. Look at that. So now from 11,000 lines down to 7,000 lines, that's totally worth it. Very neat. So this will definitely affect the size of the programs that we build, which also allows us to put more stuff in terms of other features. I mean, we've won so much now. So where is, here it is. So that's how that looks like. There's one big branch that basically just checks if this is a valid field. And if it is a valid field, we can now make the call that adjusts our JSON structure. And for that, I guess I want to look it up. Yeah. Just to see what it can do. I think there's not much magic to it, but still, where's the value? Here it is. Value, search JSON, value. How do I define it? Like this? Okay. That's an enum with bool blah 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 string array of values and an object which is basically a dict from string to value. Well, there's it's not basically, it is a dict from string to value. That's how that is. Okay. So I guess it's very similar to this one. We get a cursor. I would like to get the actual cursor that we want for read-only operation. Set cursor to value. We might even actually want to put this on the cursor itself. Why not? So struct cursor, field cursor, because it has some functions already, like did you mean? It can as well have pubfn set value. Yeah, and this value, we have to see what we do with the value type. Oh, because the value type, all the information about that, I just deleted. So where is it? Init call stuff. I think here we had the value type, p type, actual JSON type, blah blah blah. So that's the one. That's something I probably wanna keep around somewhere at least, just to see how it's supposed to be used then. Yeah. So we want to set the value, so we need the string value. We know our cursor position, that's important. We need the string value and the desired type, and then we can do the conversion ourselves as needed. Yeah. And the type. Oh. Yeah, so the type is now known at generation time, but we do not actually provide it here. So at runtime, as you can see, we've just this part here and it doesn't know anything about the designated type yet. So what we could do is have one clause, one call with the respective type set up accordingly. We could do that. That would be the brute force version. Alternatively, we could have a separate match that sets the type, I'd actually like that. So then we can move it one up. So this match is just to determine the desired type of the thing. And if we don't get it, we have a suggestion. Otherwise, we will, yeah, I think that's more like it. Let's restructure it, or let's structure it differently. Basically, we want to say, let's type be, let field type be a match on, and now we move everything to the right, like this. And now, yeah, we don't do that anymore. And that's pretty, I think that's good, that's better. Now we just say, well, if there is a match, then we just set it to sum. And I use the string for now. Oh, p-type. Okay, that's something we keep. So that's the error that we want to keep. And that's all and within the loop of each key value that we get, not to forget. So if this didn't work, oh yeah, let's put a comma here. If this didn't work out for us, we go with the suggestion and return none here. So yeah, I leave it to inference to figure out what the type of this thing should be. I think it can do that. And yeah, we set this field type here. This also means that here we have an assignment, and we can go one to the left and just match on this one. Well, actually I don't have to match because I'm not interested in the none case. So here we get a field, field type. We can just reuse this, is field type. And if this works out for us, then we can make the call, which brings us back to this one. Set value, set JSON value. So what do we need? We need the JSON, we need first a self, then we need a JSON value. JSON value, which is mutable. Yeah, how to call it, JSON. I need another value though. I need the value that you actually want to set, right? This is this value here. Not sure. How I want to name this. I know what I need. JSON structure dict object. It's an object, definitely. So now we have a value, which I think is just a string, an optional here. And if it's none, we bail out. So we know it boils down to being a string. I think it's a string slice. I don't know if it's static or not. Oops. No. It's a slice, and then we have the value type, which is also some sort of string. We'll have a look at that later, just to see if we need that or not. And this is it. We don't return anything. And all we have to do is manipulate that JSON value to be to have the right value at the right location. That's all we have to do. And from there, we should be able to reserialize deserialize the actual structure type. So we basically postpone all the heavy work, all the structure setting work, to the code that we already have when being deserializable and serializable. Cool. So that should already be fine. Now we can set up the call. I will just copy this. So here we are in the if let area. And we use the temp cursor. Oops, temp cursor, set JSON value. And then we go with our object, which we don't yet have, and it's a mut. Then we have the value map. Unwrap, or I don't know how I usually do this. Parse code-bloat, where do I use the value? Usually I do unwrap or here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I would even go with unwrap. Let's try unwrap. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Also borrowed, I will just try it. I would like to hand over the value, and I assume that there's something in there because otherwise we would have aborted beforehand. And if we wanted to, we could put this into a match, right? What I don't usually like so much is if we kind of check for is none or is some and then unwrap later. Just kind of screams for a match that unpacks it or not, you know? And this also usually, I mean, makes the code more nested, but also, you know, could save us some lines of code here possibly, and maybe not reduce the cleanness, but I'm not sure. I don't want to do this just now because that changes the structure quite a bit. Let's get this to work first, and then we can think about restructuring. All right, let's keep going. So I unwrap this here. The value type shall be the field type, and that's it. That's the call that we are going to make. So we need an object to do that. And I think it could be as easy as setting this up here somewhere. It has some methods. Does it have some creation? Is array, okay. As array. Is string as null is the default? Nope. As null. Well, I think I start with an object then, huh? But how do I create this usually? Previously I just had this stuff. Now I don't have it. I mean, I could just create it myself, right? I think default object default should do it. B-tree map default will do it. Let's try that. So yeah, if we can do it, we will have an object, and this needs to live outside of the loop here. Let mut object be a JSON value, sorry, like this. JSON value. And we start out with an object of default. So it's an empty object, right? And then we can pass this thing on. And let's see if that generates. It does generate. And that's how that looks like now. Well, it's all about the type here. String, Boolean. Yeah. We will rethink that, the way we handle these strings. But, you know, for now it's okay. Field type, so we set the field type, be sure we really do it. Yeah, so here we have a mismatch, the field is unknown to us. If we have a field type, we will set the JSON value and we are done. And this is for each of the settable ones. And we are in video update. So if you go for videos insert, you know, this is kind of the biggest structure known to mankind. And I think we brought it, I mean, it's so redundant. So if we would set this up on a on a more structural level, this would be much better. Much less redundant, much less strings we have here. But I checked it, we have like in YouTube 1.4 megabyte of just strings. And, bringing this down to less could be useful, like to 200 kilobyte or something. And I think 200 kilobyte should just be fine. It's 200,000 characters. I guess that most stuff we kind of waste by having all these redundancies in here. And, having to repeat this again. If we would have one structure that does it all, we would be much better. Yeah, I might want to put this information down. Like, yeah, not for this release, but maybe for the next one, so that you have a little bit of optimization each time you release something. And thus force it to be better. Wait, didn't I? That's weird. I just actually created a new ticket that I thought was 112. 112. Yeah, it is there. Okay. Kind of remembered it anyway. Good. So what I want to do is remove redundancy of request structure matches. This could also benefit the suggestions which could follow the natural structure of objects. The intention is to use less code and or less strings within the binary. Cool. But I'm already, for 1.1, I'm already quite happy because we already saved so much code here. Actually, did we? Let's see. Yeah, 3,000 lines of code. So that's 25%. I think that's pretty decent. So videos, let's look at the biggie. Videos insert. Okay, so there we go. This should theoretically compile. Let's see if it actually does compile. If not, we will make it compile and then the session is over. 37 minutes in, that's already enough, I say. Args build. Starting fresh. Oh, binary operation. Oh no, wait. I guess I want to update all these things in another shell. Because Clap upgraded to work with the latest compilers, and this is what you've seen here, because they removed vector additions from the API, which probably is a good idea, but for me it's bad, because I need more lines of code now to do the same thing as before. But anyway, so it's make cargo CLI. Oops, args is update. So that will go through and update everything in the meanwhile. And it will also regenerate, which probably isn't, well, it's kind of bad because that will clutter my view, but Now that's the API that it is building. It doesn't look too bad here. Not too bad. I just realized that on my secondary screen, which happens to be an iPad, I don't want to have such a dark theme because the iPad is quite glary and not so bright. I mean, I didn't set it to full brightness because that way it uses less power, and power is something I can't really provide here over a 5-meter USB cable. But it's kind of works. It's okay. It's kind of plus minus zero in terms of power at the end of the day. But if I would put the stuff to white, then I think the screen would still consume the same amount of energy, but would allow me to see better. Anyway, so here we go. There's a little bit of issue. Unclose the limiter. Oh. So that's kind of this one here. Yeah. Let's try that again. Oh man, cargo has this this evil bug. So it compiles the API all the time now, even though it didn't change. Oh, crap. Yeah, I think this has to do with path. So if you define something, a dependent project as path, then this happens, because that's the only special thing that happens here. So filters, everything mentioning you. I think this is related. I think the key difference to other projects is that in this case, Google Discovery is set up as dependent project of Google Discovery 1. Of Google Discovery 1 CLI using the path key. So like it's more like this then. Note the relative path, which could have something to do with it. Well, that's it. So far, no reply to this one here. Maybe I just make a new issue, because it's not dependent on overrides anymore. Maybe this should be a new issue, as it seems unrelated to overrides. Yeah, I think I will make one, but not now. For now I just wait and see if that compiles. It seems to compile though. That's a good thing. This works so far. Let's prepare a commit here. Boom. Related to. We are at 111. And you might wanna put related to 111 here, just to have the link and make navigation easier, like that. Good. There it is already. So 111. What is it? It's a feat. How do I call it? Yeah, it's more like a size reduction, JSON, objects, simplification. Reduce size, binary size. I don't know what the overall goal is. The overall goal is obviously to prepare for the configuration system. So I guess I want to call it like that. Config. Infrastructure for simplified value set. Basis for simplified value setting. Previously, we would set static structures manually using complex cases and utility functions. Now we set up the foundation to allow setting a generic JSON value instead, which can later be deserialized into the target type, target structure. And this is something I also want to have in my infrastructure here. So I'm not yet done. In this case, you know, it happens here somewhere. And this request we have to set up. Right now, we just set it up with the default, but now we don't have to do that anymore, which is good. We save energy basically. So that's this. Now we do it the JSON way. So the object will be converted into a assumably valid request object. And it must be called like this, right? Yeah, because the code that comes later is just appended here, so it needs a request at the end of this. So here we go with the for. That's a for loop here. And here we set up the request to be JSON. Yeah, the prop type we just put here to serve as a hint for the type inference. And now we can just say JSON from value or something. Let's see. Oh, JSON value from value into T. See, that's it. From value, and then we pass a read-only. Oh, it consumes the value. That's interesting. Look at that. I mean, it can consume it, but I would have thought it's happy with read-only results. And then we unwrap the result and we are done. From value, well, have it then. Unwrap. And we assume this works. Good. So that is what we want. Unfortunately, so we have to rebuild, and now it will, the confused cargo will rebuild the API, kind of doubling our build times. Yeah. Damn it. That's very, 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 very annoying. Yeah, I guess I just amend this commit, hoping that it works. And if it doesn't work, you know, I will make the fix myself. I would like to finish the session because it has been going on for long enough already. And that is that. Thanks for watching and have a great day.